Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back again with another movie, this time one of Griffin's choosing. So I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about the movie and why he chose it.
Yes, so this movie is released in 2013, I believe, called 12 Years a Slave. I picked this one out because I saw former co-host Cameron Hardy had recently watched it and he really liked it, and I needed something to pick out, so I figured we'll do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also saw Cam's letterbox, so shout out Cam. Miss you.
Thank you, Cam.
But he made a very important distinction in this movie on his letterbox rating, and after, like, I don't like things being spoiled for me on letterbox, right? But if people point out things that aren't spoilers, I'll keep an eye out for it just to see what I think about what they said, right? Yeah. And he made a point where it's hard to say that anyone's a good actor in any of these roles just because of the nature of the role that they play.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't fit. And I think I will agree.
Yeah, because I mean, like, acting wise, I mean, it's good acting, but like at the same time, it's like the topic at hand is like very heavy and like it has its roots back in history, so it's kind of like hard to label it as like good acting in a sense, I guess.
Yeah, and before we even get into any of the acting, we got to discuss what this movie is about.
Right.
It's based on a true story about a man named Solomon Northup, who is a free man in the North and gets captured and basically sold into slavery in the South in Georgia, and follow his journey there for 12 years before he ends up making it back home after a chance encounter with a Canadian contractor, I guess you could say.
Yeah, basically.
The cast for this, I think the best way, like how that conversation we're having where it's hard to say anybody's good actor in these roles, I think the best way to phrase it is that the actors are talented, the characters are realistic.
Yes.
I think that would be the distinction I'd make. So we've got Chiwetel Ejiofor as Solomon Northup, Michael Fassbender as Epps, Lupita Nyong'o as Patsy, Brad Pitt as Bass, Paul Dano as Tibates, Benedict Cumberbatch as Ford, Paul Giamatti as Freeman, Sarah Paulson as Mrs. Epps, Alfred Woodard as Mrs. Shaw, and a long list of others. This is a very, very talented group of characters.
There's like a pretty stacked cast here, so.
Yeah, I love the acting, or actors, I should say. But yes, the actors are phenomenal, and the characters are very realistic. I occasionally point out how I feel sometimes where I feel like I'm not watching a character. I'm just watching insert character or actor name here. I don't feel that way with this. I have that split second of recognition where I'm like, oh, that's Michael Fassbender with a beard. But I immediately disassociate it, and instead I'm watching Epps, you know?
Right. I mean, I'd seen Michael Fassbender in like the newer X-Men movies, but like when I didn't even realize that was him in the movie until I looked at it after. I was just like, oh, this is what's his name? Edwin Epps. And like, this is just Edwin Epps. This isn't like Michael Fassbender. I didn't really make that association.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of having these talented actors is that they can help bring these characters realistically to life.
Right.
Or as close as we can get it. I don't think actually as close as we can get it, but a reasonably honorable depiction. Because I do have a complaint about the way that things get shown, and I'm going to get into that later.
Right.
But because this is something else that Cam mentioned too, and it stuck with me as well, and then I recognized it and felt the same way. But before we jump into any of that, what are some other things that you're fond of?
Other things I'm fond of, this movie is also based on the book 12 Years a Slave that was written by, excuse me. I'll just restart.
Based on the book by Solomon.
Yeah. So basically, another thing that I do like is like 12 Years a Slave is also a book by Solomon Northup. He wrote it like after he regained his freedom after his slavery days. And so this movie's kind of like, I've never read the book, so I can't say how accurate it is, but I would assume it's got like the general point down. So it's like, it's based on like someone's real experience. It's not like a fictional story or anything.
Yeah, and I also have not read the book, so I don't know adaptation-wise how much is the same, how much is different. But in terms of translating to film the story of this particular individual and the characters and life experiences he goes through, I think it does a really good job, especially in the cinematography and the composition of everything. There are some establishing shots of Georgia in here that really are beautiful shots, from the sunset going down or looking through the marsh, right? Like just nice scenic shots.
Right.
But it's hard to appreciate those in the given context of this is a slavery movie. You are watching slavery in practice.
Right. It's like, sure, you might have like scenic shots of like the Georgia landscape, but like at the same time, it's like it's about a very heavy subject. So it's kind of like, not that you like can't appreciate it, but it's like it's almost like it doesn't.
It almost feels wrong.
Right? It almost feels wrong.
Like a sin almost, to be like, yeah, I really like the sunset. We're gonna ignore everything else that just happened. Yeah, you can't make that kind of an argument. But something else that kind of aids those shots that's kind of hard to do is making them not feel like you just went out in modern day Georgia to film it. I think the costuming really lends itself to the cinematography by allowing it to feel representative of the
times,
atmosphere and aesthetic of the time.
Yeah, because I mean, this takes place in the 1840s, 1850s. It's before the Civil War. But yeah, they got the costuming down pretty well. Again, I'm like not a history expert or anything, but I'd say that they're believable.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm watching mid 2000s. You know, it's,
right.
It's very much pre. Yeah, I think pre Civil War, because I don't think Civil War starts yet.
No.
In this, but something that I was a little worried about going into it was pacing. I was worried it was going to feel kind of slow and drag, and I don't think it does. It is slow, but there's enough tension to keep you engaged. Right. I think the score and the instances that occur in this really lend itself to that. The score just in the background has that tense feeling, but the instances I'm talking about are times that you see characters being mistreated or something. I don't know what the present tense for tensible is, but that's not a word, but something that evokes tension, right? If you see any of the owners start chasing down people as they try to escape or things like that, right? Or just it's just horrendous acts against people, right? They're where you know something's going to happen, but you don't know what yet until boom, it's there. And then you're like, oh my God, that just happened. So there's plenty to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think like pacing wise, the movie did a really good job. Aside from maybe just one fact that it didn't quite feel like 12 years had passed from the beginning to the end of the movie. I think you're kind of going in that direction.
We're going to get there.
It's like, yeah, he's captured, and then it feels like the movie happens more over the course of like a year rather than 12 years, because it's like the only I'd say like the only evidence that 12 years had passed were that his children, who were like little at the start of the movie, have like they've grown by the end of the movie, and that's like the only like indication that time has passed, because it just doesn't seem like anyone ages in this movie.
Yeah, and before I comment on that, one fact that I feel like gets a little underappreciated in this is the prosthetic work that goes into this. Yeah. There's one scene where, what's the character's name? Patsy gets lashed very viciously for like 5 minutes straight of just that. It's very brutal. And it's not as brutal as the earlier one where it happens often enough to where you see the blood start spewing, but it's brutal enough that like her body collapses against the post that she's chained to and has nowhere to go. And then you get a scene right after that where you see her back and the prosthetics to show the cuts and the bruising.
Lashes,
and how all of the skin is just kind of hit the mic on accident, but the skin is just, what's the right word for it? Like fractured open, basically.
Yeah.
And you can, I don't know if you could see the bone, but there's like little instances of a whitish yellow color on there
Yeah,
that I
it's
don't
like-
know if that's what part of the body that would be, but for me, it looks like it's almost the back of your rib cage, right? Like it's been hit so hard that it's split
Yeah.
right down through the flesh and onto the bone. But I'm not a medical expert, so I couldn't tell you that.
Right,
It's a very deep cut.
I'm not any like nursing students. I don't know, but yeah, and like on top of like all the lashings too, and like just the movie's overall very brutal. Although even with how brutal the movie is, it's probably like nowhere near like what it was actually like.
You raised the second point we're gonna get
'Cause-
into later.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like they're trying to like put it in your head that like like what happened was terrible and like this did happen to people, but at the same time too, it happened on like a much worse scale than what was depicted here. It wasn't like, I mean, it's still bad what happened on screen, but like it was just so much worse like back then too.
Sorry, my eye itched. We'll cut that part a little bit so
Editing
it flows. But to get to that part, I want to go back to the first thing that you mentioned with the time passage. I am a big hater when it comes to continuity if you do it wrong. And I understand what the movie was trying to do, I think, where it doesn't feel like this much time has passed, but when you get to the end, I think it's meant to show that in the violence and injustice of everything, that Solomon's experience almost feels like the time flew by because the days blurred together so much, to where you get to that 12 years marker and it's like, yeah, he has faced that hardship for so long that it has been 12 years. But there's not any, I guess makeup department would be the one in charge of it, but there's not a makeup team focused on showing the aging of any of the actors or characters. I think of Oppenheimer, right, where you have so many different time periods of Oppenheimer's life, and the makeup team goes all out to show you that, yes, Oppenheimer has aged from the start of the movie to the end of the movie.
Right.
And even the one scene where it's way later on. This doesn't do any of that. And even just looking for the tiniest hint of gray hairs to show some sort of aging or stress, don't see any.
It's like he went through 12 years of slavery and didn't get a single gray hair. It's like, and like, I feel like he's not like insanely young either. I feel like
no, he's
like,
probably what, like 30s. He's already got a wife and two kids.
Yeah, exactly. So like, let's assume he's like, I don't know, 35 at the youngest. I think that's reasonable. He'd be 47. I'm not saying like every 47-year-old has like a, silver hair and whatnot, but like at the same time, they usually have, some silver hair.
I also feel like, or sorry, I cut you off, but
no, it's all good.
No, I feel like the other part of it, even just excluding the hair, is the face, right?
Right.
The face, when faced with such stress and tension and hard work, naturally will not wither, but it'll just very visibly look strained. And looking at Ejiofor's face, it looks the same as it does from the start of the movie. I don't feel like there's any new wrinkles or stress lines, probably isn't the right word for it, but it doesn't look like he's gone through
12 years.
Right. And that kind of leads into my second problem with this, where I also feel like the violence is not committed to it. And granted, I don't think it needs to be, but I feel like it's dancing around what it actually was like, if that makes sense. I can explain here in a second, but I want to see what you say first.
Actually, I want to hear what you say first.
Okay. I remember in Cam's Letterboxd review, he had mentioned that something along the lines of that, yeah, there are violent moments, but I don't know if this is ever the violence of what actually was is something that can ever be put to screen, right?
Right.
And I do agree with that sentiment. I don't think you could ever capture something as horrific as what really did go on in a Scream. The best you could do is adapt. Right. But I see the movie go down that dark route many at a time, whether it's lashings, lynchings, whatever it might be. But then the in between just doesn't do any of that, right? I feel like this is especially true with Solomon, and it's not necessarily main. It's definitely main character energy, but I don't know about plot armor per se. But
Right.
he faces some of these
Right.
hard times often, but nothing seems to come from it. Like he doesn't break down to it, and maybe that's supposed to be the point. Like it's part of the character's strength and perseverance to get through that and return home no matter what.
Right.
But I don't think it really works here, especially when there's so much despair from the other characters around Solomon. But Solomon almost feels as if he's exempt from it, and he's rather just walking through a museum of it.
Yeah. So like Cam's review said, like obviously it would be impossible to capture something as bad as what happened back in the 1800s. At the same time, though, it's like kind of going off your point a bit. Solomon, like, he wrote the book that the movie is based off of, so it's kind of like implied that he survived, but like at the same time, I do kind of get like the moments of brutality just can kind of feel like they're just there in a sense. I don't know if that's the best way to phrase it, but like,
Yeah,
I kind of get what you mean a little bit.
because the end. Oh, wrong camera. Yeah, I kind of get what you mean because the ending text slides say that he did get back home, right, and then prosecuted, but because of state laws, it never happened, and
Right.
the people that drugged him and got him sold basically walked away scot-free, and then he did die, but the circumstances of which are not known.
Right.
So, I wonder if, and granted, this is just guessing because I have not read the book, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm wondering if the book doesn't touch on the violence of it
Right.
as much as it does his journey home, because I feel like that would be what the explanation for why this doesn't fully depict how things were. I think it does an accurate enough job to get the point across,
Right.
and there's something to be said about the fact that they don't show everything to you, how horrifying it must really be if they can't or won't. But I feel like on a historical driven piece like this, you kind of have to bring it up in some form, and they
Yeah.
do. It's just not to a point where it feels as real as the characters around them do.
Right. So kind of going off what you said there, I don't think there's a way to like put a fully historically accurate like lashing on screen. I don't think they would not Hollywood would not do that. And it can kind of feel he's like exempt in a way, but that whether that's like a plot driven narrative or if that's just maybe he didn't get like severe lashings in the book. I don't know. I haven't read the book. I could be insanely wrong here. I can kind of agree. It doesn't. I mean, he's in slavery. Obviously, he's trapped. But like at the same time, he's not like subjected to the amount of violence that like other characters like went through in the movie too, I guess.
Yeah. And I keep thinking of the scene where Patsy gets lashed because
Yeah.
that is arguably the most violent of the scenes, especially because you see all of the gore when it's all said and done.
Oh yeah.
And Lupita's acting through that scene is phenomenal. Like you really see the pain on her face, right, that the character
Right.
is going through. And in the given context, the violence there goes hand in hand with the expressions and emotions being conveyed. But it's when you get out of those scenes and you still see Patsy suffering, crying, breaking down
Right.
because of all the hardship that she's endured. And then Solomon's just standing there, like unfazed, completely unfazed, just does not sit right with me.
I can agree there too. It's like it's like he's seeing this woman get like lashed severely, and it's just like it really doesn't seem to like stick with him either. Because this does happen in like the last 20 minutes of the movie, I think.
Hint, hint, deep thought, hint, hint.
Okay, well, we'll get there when we get there then. Yeah, it does happen in like the last 20 minutes of the movie, so it's like maybe there just wasn't enough time to really stick that to put that in there.
See, that's where I feel like this has a problem, right? If there wasn't time to put that kind of
Like trauma.
effort or trauma into Solomon's character, there's a lot of other slow moments you can take out of this and fill that time with. So
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't make the movie. I don't know. It just doesn't personally seem like they go hand in hand all the time. They feel a little uneven at times. I did briefly hint at the deep thought, but is there anything else that you want to talk about before we discuss that?
Another thing too, like did having like not like larger name actors, but like, you know, like did seeing like Benedict Cumberbatch like walk into the room, like did that off-put you in any way? I'm curious.
It didn't off-put me. I knew ahead of time, right, that there were bigger name actors in it.
Right.
And yeah, it does immediately for a second click, and I'm like, oh, that's that guy, or this is X actor. But after that, I'm locked in on the character rather than the name attached, just because of the way that the film presents itself and these realistic characters. I'm not seeing the same too. Like whenever Pedro Pascal was first announced as Mr. Fantastic, right? Before I'd seen the movie, I could not see Reed Richards for the life of me. I just saw Pedro. And then whenever I saw the movie and saw the acting in full, I could immerse myself into the world and understand that, yes, this is the character that I'm watching, right?
Right.
This film being historical angle, I'm able to separate those a little easier. And because I know it's a representation of history, right?
Right.
There are times where it does feel weird, like when Brad Pitt shows up for the first time. It's very off-putting, but eventually I move past it. But he's not in the movie long enough to where I fully get past it. So every time I'm like, what's Brad Pitt doing here?
Right. Yeah, so like first time we see Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm like, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? And I'm like, oh wow, yeah. I didn't do like any research to see like what actors were in this movie, so I went in completely blind. So like I was a bit like, why is he here? Oh, he's playing. Oh, yeah, actually has a major role, kind of. And then Paul Dano flew over my head. I didn't recognize. Sorry, Mr. Paul Dano, but and Michael Fassbender I didn't recognize either. But yeah, as you said with like Brad Pitt, I was like, when I first saw him, I was like, that's Brad Pitt, and then I saw him again, I'm like, that's Brad Pitt, and then it's just like, not that it was like insanely distracting, but it's like, that's just Brad Pitt.
And I think you made a key distinction there where you said you went in blind, and as you see Paul Dano and Michael Fassbender, it goes over your head. Like you didn't know that's the actor initially, right? Me knowing that there were the names ahead of time, I'm able to pick them out. And I don't know if their faces are just more fresh in my mind or something. I don't know, or if I'm just like hinged too much on which actors are playing what. But I think that was something that most audiences probably felt, is that you go in and then you're not seeing the named actors immediately. You're seeing the characters first.
Right.
So I think there's something to be said there. But deep thought-wise, there's a scene towards the end of the movie where Solomon is just by himself looking around and eventually makes a direct address, which is basically like how I'm looking at you right now, just straight down the barrel of the camera. And he's like, eyes are glancing around, and occasionally he like stops like this and then kind of keeps glancing around. What do we think this means?
Okay, remind me. Okay, this was in the last...
It's towards the end of like the last 20 or so minutes, like you said.
Is it like before he... Is it like before he leaves? I'm trying to remember when this happens.
It's like right before he gets to leave, I think. Or,
okay.
Or shortly before.
And he's just like
There's
okay.
no sound, no nothing. It's just him looking around and then just stares right down the barrel of the camera and then looks away.
Okay, now I'm the one with memory issues. I don't remember this.
Hey, it's going around. Don't worry about it.
I guess like if he's looking around, it could be. I guess in the most basic kind of answer, it could be like foreshadowing that it's like he's like I don't know.
That's all right.
I sincerely do not remember.
There are
that.
no right or wrong answers to deep thoughts. That's kind
Yeah.
of the joy of
I guess
having
the
them.
only one would be, watch the scene.
Yeah. I think in context it's just a very plain and simple answer of like he's wondering if his letter is going to get received because he has to send a letter back with what's his name?
Brad Pitt's
Bass.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bass.
He has to send a letter back north to basically prove that he was a free man in the north and that he's not actually a slave like he's been told to all the owners, right?
Yeah.
And I think in that scene he's just stressing over that where he's like, I don't know if this letter is going to get delivered. I tried once and the owner caught me, right?
Right.
But in Cam's review too, I saw it and it stuck with me as well, and I believe the same thing. It almost feels as if it's meant to inflict a form of guilt onto you as the audience member.
Yeah.
Where you've just spent roughly 2 hours, 15, 30 minutes?
2 hours.
Something like that. Of just watching this man's journey from living a normal, happy life to being mistreated, sold, abused, beaten, nearly killed multiple times. And then on top of that, watching others around him either be killed or be beaten to the bone. And there's nothing you do about it the entire time as the audience member because it's a movie. You can't just jump in and be like, no, stop this. This is wrong, right? You are subjected to watch it if you hit the play button. And I think that direct address is kind of meant to signify that it's just Solomon wondering why we didn't do anything, where he just looks at you and you could see the sadness on Ejiofor's face during this scene, where it really does feel to me like they're inflicting guilt onto you, right? Where it's just, why watch this, not do anything? Why allow such violence to go unchecked? That sort of thing.
Yeah. I guess if I had to recreate that shot in my head, I could slightly picture it now. I still don't fully remember that scene, but
it's a very short scene too. It's not longer than a minute.
Okay, that's probably why I forgot it. But I remember most things about this film. Okay, I'm not like completely ignoring it. I just forgot this one shot.
Dude who did not watch the movie.
Two dudes who didn't watch the movie. That should be a pocket. No, it shouldn't. But
don't give anyone ideas.
No.
Don't give anyone ideas.
No. But yeah, if I had to like reimagine that shot, I guess like I can see it like as you said, like why didn't us, the audience, like do anything to step in or like it could also be like I'm completely making this up, but like if he was looking like if he was facing north, let's say, it's like maybe he's wondering like why like no one came to get him either, because it's like, I mean, maybe people thought he was like dead or something until they received his letter, and that's like the first sign like ever that he was alive. Yeah, it could be like just like looking at us, the audience. It could be like looking up north to see like if he was even facing north. I don't know. But if he was like looking north, it could be like, why didn't anyone come help either?
Yeah. And I think what makes this scene a little more powerful too is that, assuming that my viewing of it being this guilt imposing moment is the intended purpose of said scene, I think it still holds up today as well with making you feel guilty at times, right? Like there is still a lot of injustice across different groups and peoples that not everybody's doing anything about. And, most of us are chronically online, being Gen Z. So we see all of this all the time, right? And then you get moments like this where it's almost like you're watching it again. And then somebody finally asks you, like, why aren't you doing anything about it?
Right.
And how can you just idly sit by, right? It's not a question that's meant to be answered.
Right.
It's not rhetorical either, where you know the answer. It's just meant to make you self-reflect on what you've seen.
Because they don't want you to answer like hop in a time machine and go fix everything. It's like it's more like a reflective question.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be, if I had to answer what that scene's meant to do, is just kind of make you feel guilty and ponder, if you will.
Yeah.
With that being said, do we think we are ready for some ratings?
I think so, yes.
All right. Since you chose the movie, why don't you go first?
All right. I will give this movie, I think it did a mostly pretty accurate job of just historical accuracy, whether that was like just with the depictions that they showed and like, the costuming and like overall not that the acting wasn't good or was good, but like they did their characters justice.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the best way to put it. And then just a couple minor issues of like he didn't age really. I think all things considered, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. So Luke, what would you rate it?
I think I'm also going to go with a 4 out of 5. I agree with most of what you've said too, where actually I don't think I've disagreed with you any this episode, to be honest. So I agree with all of what you've said, where the cast is incredibly talented and helps make these characters feel so realistic through the talent that they possess. And then you get into this amazingly composed cinematography and tension-building score, and the costuming feeling really fitting for the time, and the pacing being slow but not boring. Like, you're still on the edge of your seat.
Right.
And you get to the, like how I mentioned, the deep thought, right, where there is enough thought-provoking level into this movie of addressing you directly without having to say anything and making you self-reflect and think about what you're watching. Which a lot of movies don't do anymore. Not necessarily like a director has to be like feel bad, but more so just thinking about what you're watching critically, right? Where I'm thinking of Drew Britton's thing where he kept bringing up like the Netflix rule where like every however often you have to repeat something related to the plot because they're assuming people aren't watching, things like that.
Right.
So there's a level of incompetence in current movie space at times, not always, but at times where they're assuming you're a little stupid. And this movie does not do that. And then furthermore, straight up just looks you dead in the eye and says, right, they don't have to say anything in that scene, but it makes you stop and think about it. The reason that I'm giving it a 4 is because I just feel like the violence that is shown in this, while accurate enough to get the point across, doesn't fit fully with the experiences that we see for Solomon's character, right?
Yeah.
He it's not plot armor because he still does get himself in touchy situations, but it is a little bit of main character energy where it's like, yeah, I'm going through a hard time, but it's fine. And then there's not much repercussion from it other than a time jump at the end of the movie, which for me just doesn't work because there's not enough in between that jump to make it work for me personally,
like 12 years.
Even though I can understand what its intended purpose most likely was.
Yeah.
But with that, I think that'll do it for this episode.
I think so, yeah.
Well, we will be back next week with a guest. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a fun time. Till then, I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.